It's here. New Year's, second edition, 2021. There is no time other than January when there is more likelihood that someone is going to seek a fitness or a health coach. They are looking for a program, a course, a path, an answer. I'm Deborah Atkinson, and this is Fitness Marketing Mastery, where I share marketing and sales strategies, occasionally give you the insights into programming for women in midlife with hormone balancing exercise. And today we're diving into the need and the urgency that you have if you are listening when this goes live in early fall of 2021. And before I go there, if you're not open to online services for your customers, if you're not open to the idea of virtual, I believe you're going to struggle this fall. We're in the heat of the moment right now. I say that not because I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona, where that is certainly true, but I say it because right now things are spiking. No one has certainty over what's next, what kind of risk we're in. And I will share an inside personal story. Last weekend, I was at one of the first live events that I've attended since pre pandemic. The last time I was with a group of people comfortably and openly was the end of February 2020. I spoke on stage at an event and came home and promptly hosted a couple of guests, family, 2 weeks later. And days after they were safely home, the airports were already flooded actually when they traveled, but we were all under pandemic and quarantine restrictions. That's when it started. This past weekend, I spent 3 days with some very close friends and colleagues, all in the health and functional medicine space. By the time we got home, within 3 days, 7 had tested positive. Now, this is not a group of health habit slackers. Imagine what will happen to the rest of the world. And what does that mean for gyms, for closures, for you who might see clients in person? You need plan B, and you're probably going to need it for the future as well. People are traveling again and they're getting sick. Numbers are spiking. Parents don't want to expose their kids or the older adults that they're the caregiver to. And yet, there is every reason in the world they want and need to exercise and improve their health habits. I want you to hear this carefully and closely and take it in. You are not limited by the pandemic. You are limited only by the way you think about solving problems for people. If you want to generate revenue with the knowledge that you have, with the education, the skills, and the heart that you have, you can do that. Here's a quick way to get quick wins. Don't get trapped in the delivery method. Get a yes first. Get a yes, I need help and I want to do something. Determine how you service them after that. Don't think for a minute it means you have to charge less. For me, for instance, it's been several years since I trained with any frequency that was a large enough part of my revenue or income to really matter. In fact, it's probably been 15 years since that time when training was a big part of my daily life. But in the last 8 years, I've done bits and pieces of training in person because I still enjoy it while building an online business. And it keeps me in touch, literally in touch with what are the facial expressions of someone when they say that, so that I can really understand what they're feeling when they say that. So I can really answer with feeling when I'm talking to a group of people through a camera lens. That's important to me and why I've done it. For me, an in-person training session was $95 for about 50 minutes. So let's say $95 an hour, and I charge 300 when I was a virtual coach for consumers. For a decade, I've done that and never lifted a weight or was exhausted at the end of the day. I didn't stand all day. I stood if I wanted to. I sat if I wanted to. I walked around my house if I wanted to. So don't ever think the value of what you're doing goes down if it's virtual. It's still your time, it's still custom, and depending on what you're doing and how you're doing it, you may actually be helping them more than the exercise alone. Okay, so let's dive into this. Before I go on, I want to mention something. In order to do what I'm about to talk to you about, you need to get very familiar with vocabulary, with words that persuade your ideal customer or your ideal avatar to take action or make a decision that might be no, not right now. It might be no, hell no, never with you. And that's okay. If you're doing a good job with marketing and using words that are right for the right people you want to work with and wrong for the people you don't want to work with, then you've got great marketing copy. But if that's something that you're still not quite adapted to, you don't know the words to use, or it's awkward when you go to write that call to action, even in a post, let alone an email, or when you're talking person to person with them. I've got a copywriting course just for you, and I've made it evergreen. And temporarily, you can get it for 50% off. I'm going to put the link in the show notes. Let me take you through these steps, though, right now. Number one, super easy for you introverts who like to brainstorm, make lists. This is for you. List 5 or 10 people that you absolutely know that you can help right now. They need your help. Maybe these are clients you had worked with pre-pandemic, but really haven't seen them or haven't seen them frequently enough during the pandemic to know they're doing enough. They may have been those previous clients. They stopped doing in person sessions. They aren't exercising or aren't doing it in the right way. And you already know muscle and bone loss are occurring, or anxiety and depression are things that they need to avoid. List those 5 to 10 people. If you can create a bigger list than that, do it. But I want these to be really 5 to 10 people that you feel like you could pick up the phone and authentically say, look, I've been thinking about you. And here we go. That's number two. You're going to contact the people on that list. You're going to call them, email them, and text them until you get a response. But let me tell you, do not hide behind your phone. Don't hide behind a text. Don't hide behind an email. Call them. Call them and leave a message if you must, but call them and let them know you're going to continue calling them. In the last week in our team, we have a system. So if, for instance, someone's payment has failed, it happens. People's credit cards update and they don't remember every place they've got a credit card number and they've got a subscription, kind of a purchase. And so it happens regularly. It's happened to me. I'm sure it's happened to you as well. So what happens is we automatically run that 3 times. If it fails, each time that runs, they get an email from our system that says, whoops, looks like you need to update your credit card. And we make it a implied consent that of course they do want to renew and that they simply have an error, that they've not intentionally done anything or removed that card, but that it's simply not working because probably they got a new card and forgot to tell us. And it's a new number, right? So once that happens and they haven't actually reached out or updated it, then my support team will reach out directly from our support box and try and get a response that way. So it's not just an automated email, but it's going directly from a warm, fuzzy person to them. Now, if that doesn't get any response, they will hand it off to me. But imagine me tapping you on the shoulder right now. Like, hey, you, I'm trying to get a hold of you. Those three automated and those three reaching out from our team happen at least 2 or no more than 2 days apart, if not day 1, day 2, and day 3, because they've got to come and feel like this is going to be a nuisance. They're not going to stop contacting me until I connect them back. Then they hand it off to me. So I reach out personally. I will text someone first, then I will call them. I may email them from my personal email if they've been a private customer and I already had that email and I've got old emails, so I know they've communicated with me that way. But then going for the kill is always the call. So if I really want a response, I'm going to call, and then I'm going to call again, and then I'm going to call again. Now, if I have no response, they're really avoiding me, or something tragic happened. So what we do then is handle it internally. But notice it was call them, call them, call them that ultimately was, all right, we've reached the height of needing to get a hold of them and really send a message. So if you want to get action, start with the call. Here's how it's going to go. I've been thinking about you. I'd love to catch up with you and share some ideas for you right now as we get back into fall and routine, under some restrictions. Would you like to hear what I have in mind for you? I have give them 3 different times. I've got a 9 a.m., I have a noon appointment, or I can make late afternoon open for you. What's good for you? Let me know. And the best number to reach you, or if you'd prefer, send them a Zoom link so that you can see face to face, because that also works really well. So then, again, tap them on the shoulder. You don't hear back and you've left that message. Get them on the phone. Get that commitment. Text them a follow up. Hey, I called you, left a voice message for you. Did you get it? So make sure that you're pinging them regularly. Be a bit of a nuisance. Once you get them and somebody says, yeah, I would love to hear, and here's why they will. It's very flattering. You've been thinking about somebody. I've got some ideas for you. Would you like to hear them? That's pretty hard to pass up because we may be living in a house with a spouse or a partner, but we're all very, very busy. When somebody specifically had you in mind and reached out to you, it's pretty flattering. All right, when you get them in person, you're either talking on the phone, you're talking face to face on Zoom, or maybe you're literally across the table but masked. Here's what you're asking. How would you rate your fitness level right now? 0 to 10. And I throw 0 in no matter what. So if you could do 0 to 4, 0 to 5, 0 to 10, but I wouldn't go bigger than that because it gets too just broad. But 0 makes it obvious that's tanking. What would it take for that to be a 10? Most of us are probably not going to say, I want a 10. I'm perfect. Right? We always are complaining about something. So what would it take for that to be at a 10? Get them to describe it. Are you interested in taking some steps to get you to that 10? If we can find a way to work together in a way you're comfortable right now, would you like support on that? And the last question is, would you like support from me? These are pretty straightforward questions, right? Going right down the path to a new client. And that last question makes it super easy. Would you like support from me? Now, you haven't even talked money. You haven't even talked about that. That's not the point. And that's your job. That gets you pretty quickly to knowing somebody is or isn't ready to take action and asking for support. Your biggest job or task in asking those questions is to stay away from the how. You don't have to go there yet. That's not the question that you want the answer to. All you want to know and have them answer is if there is a way. And hey, there's always a way for us to work together. Is that candidate interested? Then you can hash out the details of what makes them comfortable. Is it coming in? Is it doing sessions outdoors and live? Is it in home virtual sessions? Is it the workout assignment that you give to them, whether it's written or it's video to follow, and a check in with you with weekly calls and or a text? There's so many ways that you could put this together. You can include, though content wise, lifestyle habits like sleep, stress, nutrition, hydration, components for them with coaching in a way that you can't and you often will skip in personal training. I've been there. I know how it goes. When you're in a training session with somebody, you often will default to what makes you and them more comfortable than talking and focusing specifically on their body, especially if you're working with somebody who's a larger size person. You're dodging the real issue. You're probably not watching technique as closely as you could be, but you're definitely not taking advantage of the time to talk about their sleep. They're prioritizing sleep, how they're dealing with stress, whether they're actually binge eating or compulsively eating at night. You're probably not diving into those things because they're more uncomfortable. But one thing you can do better, potentially, when you're on the phone with someone is tackle those things. People are much more willing, maybe when you're not looking into their eyes, to be more open and be more honest. And you will talk about those things because you don't have the distraction of being in person and having that awkwardness that can exist. Think about that. You have a huge opportunity here in the pandemic to change the way you've thought about the services that you offer in a way that could enable you more revenue than you ever made pre pandemic and more freedom and change lives in a more impactful way. It's not exercise that makes life happen, folks. I mean, let's be honest. It's the way exercise is a catalyst for other habits and it decreases stress if it's done correctly. Why not take this chance and go right for the lifestyle habits that you can also help with? It allows you to use a bigger skill set. It allows you to put all of the knowledge that you have for somebody in one package and expand both your revenue and your influence. What are you waiting for? The world needs you right now more than ever. You can get the show notes for today's podcast at fitnessmarketingmastery.com/post pandemic. And I'll put the link in the show notes to the copywriting course. It's evergreen. What I mean by that, you can start it today and you have access to all of the videos, all of the downloads, cheat sheets, or handouts, and to any updates that will be made for a lifetime. Now, I'm 57, planning on being around for a long time. So, lifetime is a pretty tricky word, but you get the idea. It's not going to shut down, it's not going to go away. And if we update this course for any reason, you benefit. There you have it. What are you waiting for? The world needs you now more than ever.